We give them a copy of the bylaws. Jamie usually takes them to the kitchen, give them a tour of what we actually do.
Well, I usually sit down with any new board members. We go through a financial report to the best of my ability to explain where our grant funding comes from, how our operations works, how we do our budgets, what their responsibility as a board member is, what we expect from a board member, because I think a lot of boards fall short if you don't sit down with a potential board member and say, look, and everybody's different. Do you expect them to attend every meeting, and do you expect them to contribute financially? Do you expect them to take a route? Do you expect them to, what you expect for them? Because I think if they come in and they don't have any idea of what you expect from them, what you're going to ask from them, that it's very confusing. And then they may not be a good board member. You may not get what you need out of a board member. So I think it's very clear. You need to be very clear from the beginning of whatever your expectations are. Everybody's different. And, in smaller areas, board members may be hard to come by. So you want to make sure that you have someone that's not just there to be on a board, that's actually invested in what your mission is, what you intend to accomplish, and how they're going to support you. I think it's not fair to have somebody be expected to, it just depends. But I think there's different ways to give. And I think if you're going to ask your board members to give to you, if you don't have a fiduciary limit, that they give to, time is worth money. We know that. And so, if maybe they can't write you a check for every fundraiser or every raffle that you have, can they volunteer? What is their volunteer schedule like? What are they willing to give? And what do you expect from them? If you're constantly looking for new board members, you don't ever get...
continuity? Is that what I'm looking for?
Yeah, there's no continuity, and there's also no... Just when you get somebody on board that's going to be able to help you with something, or, is assigned to task, and you spend time educating that person on what their job is or what their responsibilities are, and then they turn around and leave, and you're constantly re-educating new board members. And I think you find that you will not have as much production from your board as you need, because they're constantly turning over. I think term limits are very important. I think you should have board term limits, whether you want to keep them on for 1 to 5 years or you want to keep them on for 50 years. But there should be a limitation. I think the board in general as well, because you have people that are dedicated, and there's a way to keep people on a board and still be able to draw in new members, because it's important to, I think, refresh. We all get stuck in our ways and we get into our routine, and sometimes you need somebody to come in with new ideas and fresh set of eyes or ears, or somebody who's got some new connections, or somebody that can help you in your mission to do whatever it is you're trying to do. So I think there's a way to keep board members that are valuable, that have been around for a while, making them honorary members of a committee, but that you still are able to bring in new ideas and fresh blood.
Well, when we have an opening, we look for somebody that can guarantee at least an hour a month to come to the board meetings and give us their ideas.
Now, a lot of times when we do have a board opening, we will sit down with either the executive committee or sometimes with the board in a whole. It just depends on when the conversation comes up. But what do we need? Do we need an attorney on our board? Do we need somebody that is willing to come on our board and help us with HR law or bylaws rewritten, or our policies and procedures, or our employee handbook? Is that something we're looking for? Do we need
or a banker?
Or a banker? Are we looking at investing some money and we need somebody to come on as a board member to help steer us in that direction? Do we need someone who is just an advocate in the community? A lot of times, in senior centers and stuff, we might want a senior, somebody who's got their pulse on the senior, do we need a member of AARP? Do we need somebody to come in that's going to, I think you need to take a minute and evaluate where you are and where your shortcomings are. And how can you use the board to help bring you where you need to be? Do you need a strategic planner? Do you need somebody who has some experience in that to come on board and help you with that? Do you need a dietary manager? Do you need somebody, and this is a big sticky wicket with the menus and the changes and stuff, and as those changes come along, do we need somebody who's got some menu planning experience, or is a registered dietitian, or works for the health department with COVID? Do we need somebody who, is gonna, so I think there's an opportunity to load your board. When you have openings, it's important to take a look at what direction your organization is heading at the time, where you see you might need help in the future. And it's always worked really well for us. It may not for everybody. I know in smaller communities, you get what you get kind of thing. But I think it's important to take a look at how can you utilize the members of your board to the best of their ability, because we all want to feel wanted. We all want to sit on a board and feel like we're doing something. If we sit on a board and we're never engaged and we never feel like anybody needs us, or we're just spinning our wheels and sitting there for an hour and having lunch and that's it, you're not going to be very happy, and you're not going to, when it comes time for fundraisers or selling raffle tickets, you might not be that engaged. So how can you best utilize your board? And I think that it starts with what you need in your organization. The other thing I think that's very important are your board packets, because they'll keep you on track. When you send your agenda out, you should have time limits, you should have committee reports that are relevant, and you should be able to keep everybody into a time allotment. Because these are, Jim said, he's retired, he's a volunteer. He wants to go home and watch Blue Bloods. So I want to keep his time with me as succinct and to the point as it can be. So if that means you have to give your board of directors, I do a written, most of the time, I do a written executive director's report that they get prior with their minutes and their financials, any committee reports, it's all in writing, so that the board has time to read through it, digest it, come up with any questions. That way you're not spinning wheels at a board meeting, getting into things that don't need to be much discussion, but need to be said.
Exactly.
Our WSSB reports were submitted for the quarterly on the 15th of June, and everything checked out fine. Those are things that they need to know, that you're on track with where you should be with your contracts, your grants, your finances, but it's not something that you need to spend a lot of time on. So if you spend time on those little things and the important things that need to be discussed, sometimes don't have the time allotted, or you keep someone in a board meeting way too long and you lose their attention.
If things go off track, it's actually the secretary of the board to keep us back on track, but I will say something.
You should go through your bylaws with your board of directors and your executive committee, probably at least once every 5 years. Okay. Just to make sure, there's statutes in the state that that change when it comes to governance by nonprofits. It's very important that you keep up on those, and a lot of times, the last couple of times we've updated our bylaws, we've actually sent them to an attorney, had an attorney read through them to make sure that we were in compliance, one, with state statutes, federal guidelines, and to make sure that we weren't, in today's day and age, you gotta make sure you're not discriminatory or use any kind of verbiage that could be taken the wrong way. So it's important that at least once every 5 years, you could send it to the attorney. If you can find an attorney that will do it pro bono, or you have one on your board, or they know someone, it won't cost you a lot, it may not cost you anything, but it's important. And they may not find anything. They may find that your bylaws are within the guidelines and guidances from the federal and state statutes, or that you're within any kind of new dialogue that needs to happen. But it's important to take a look at that.